Thought that was zero. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Game Changers Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in Jacksonville, Florida. And each and every week, we do this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. And this is a live show, guys. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments for our guests to answer. If anyone is in Jacksonville and working in sales and thinking about getting into real estate, send me a DM on Instagram. We are looking for some more sales reps for our team, and we are actively hiring. This week on the show, we have Lucas Walls. Lucas, welcome to the show.
What's up, Mike? What's up, everyone? Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, for the people who don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into the real estate business and how that led you to where you are?
Oh, that's a great question, Mike. Thanks for asking. I think, yeah, so I'm an engineer by trade. So I went to school to play basketball and become an engineer. Why not, right? So I thought I was set. Got a job out of school, moved to Kansas City, and I was like, I'm set for life. Like a month into that, I'm like, all right, this is not exactly what I thought, being in the real world would be like. So I kind of started doing some calculations and hey, if I get a 3% raise every year, put 10% on a 401k, how long is it going to take for me to become a millionaire? And it was really long, and it was I wasn't cool with that. Around the same time, I was looking to rent a house near my office in Kansas City area, and I was only making 44 grand a year, and all the houses were going for like 1,300 bucks a month, something like that, and that's a lot on 44 grand minus taxes. But one of the houses I went to look for to rent, the house next door to it was a for sale by owner. So I ran some numbers and was negotiating with the seller. I could buy that house and have a mortgage payment, taxes, and insurance for $740 a month. And I just started to think about the difference. Like I could own it and pay this, or rent and pay
Mhm.
this. Why is there such a big gap? And I just kind of dove in and fell in love. Cliche, but all the bigger podcasts, and just self development, finance books. So then I called my best friend and now business partner. I'm like, hey, I'm moving back to St. Louis, and we're freaking doing this thing. So I think we moved back to St. Louis. I moved back to St. Louis in December 2013.
Mhm.
Moved in to my mother and future mother-in-law's house, girlfriend, at the time, three dogs, and in like a 900 square foot house. And I was just having a blast. She just got her real estate license. I was out looking at investment deals. Probably 10 a weekend, give or take. And then one night, my future wife comes in. It's like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, we're making offers on investment properties, and my wife was like, we're not living in my mom's house while you were out buying investment properties. So we made a deal. If we bought a house together, I could get my first investment property. So that worked. Bought our first house May 2014 for Ash and I, and then bought our first investment property August August 2014. And our plan was to buy a house, flip it, take those profits, and put as a down payment on the rental. Rental was always the long game for us, but we
Mhm.
didn't understand like a cash out refinance, the burst strategy, all that stuff. So we kind of learned that as we were rehabbing, and we executed the burst strategy, and we still own that house to this day, 10 years later.
Gotcha. Huh. And have you guys stuck with building rentals as your focus over the years, or have things changed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's how it started, and I got an engineering job back home, back in St. Louis. So I wasn't a full time investor yet, and I kind of started doing the math and building up the rental portfolio. Got it up to about 60 before I was able to leave and go all in. That was in 2017, but quickly realized like it's really, as you're growing, it's really not enough cash flow to live on, nor do you really want to take that cash flow to live on. So we
Mm.
had to figure out more active income strategies in the real estate world, and that's when we started wholesaling and flipping and all that stuff to really expedite the active income while we continue to build rentals.
Gotcha. And what does your business look like today?
Yeah, so we have a wholesaling and flipping business, Faster House
Mm,
here in St. Louis. We operate in the main 7 counties around here, so pretty local here. We're not nationwide, but we flip about 20 houses a month. Of those, we wholesale probably 15 of them, and the other five, we have an awesome in-house construction team that takes those down, rehabs them, and sells them retail. Um,
mm,
of those, the best ones as rentals we pick off for our rental company, and we have an in-house property management company with about 50 million in assets right now.
mm,
Um, Single family rentals, mid-size apartments, a couple storage facilities, and about 23 short-term rentals. And then we got real good at flipping, got real good at building a rental portfolio. So we decided to start an education business to teach other people how to build rental portfolios as well. So we have 1,700 students nationwide that are part of our community that we're empowering them to go create financial freedom for themselves. So pretty much flipping, rentals, and education. That's our three main for-profit businesses.
gotcha. And then, so you said you get bringing about 20 deals a month in, you wholesale 15, you decide to flip five. How do you make the decision about which ones you're going to wholesale and which ones you're going to flip?
Man, that's a fantastic question, and that it's an important decision. We have what we call weekly deep dive meetings into every single house, and we're constantly analyzing, contractor availability, our
Hmm.
short-term leverage out there. Is it in the range that we want to be in? We also kind of look at like the month, like how are we projecting out for profitability this month? Do we need cash now, or can we wait 3 or 4 months to get a bigger check? And then the other financial aspect of that, we have to make at least, or projected to make at least 2 times uh, uh, a wholesale fee if we flip it, and if it's not going to be that, then we wholesale it automatically. And
Mm,
then it's in our rehab buy box. We're not out there putting additions on, new constructions, popping the top. We like cosmetic rehabs for the most part, and we like to stay in a particular ARV for the most part. We're not luxurious type flippers, but we're not, at the bottom of the barrel either. We like to be somewhere maybe 20 to 30% over the median house price in our area.
mm. So I'm curious, how did you come up with the metric of you want to, if you're going to flip instead of wholesaling, you want to make 2x? Like, what's the significance of that?
Yeah, it's super arbitrary, honestly. We just
Okay.
had to come up to be able to stick to it. And that felt right
Fair
to
enough.
us.
Yep. Okay. And then you said that you have an in-house construction team. What made you decide to build your construction team in-house versus, handing things outside to GCs or subs?
Yeah, great question. So we still sub a lot of things out. Um, we have, in-house maintenance techs to project managers to maintenance directors to director of construction. So all of the high level leadership in house, and then some of the maintenance into project stuff as well. But for the bulk of that rehab, we still sub out. Um, but we keep bringing more and more in house, and it's just a cost analysis, really. Looking at what we spend on labor for what we could bring that in house for is about half, honestly, and the controllability factor as well. Even though we have great partners with our subcontractors, they still have other clients that aren't us, and though they rarely push us, but even a day or two or three on 50 houses a year, 60 houses a year really adds up. So controllability and the financial impact.
Yeah. What was the first position that you hired in-house for construction?
The project manager, by far,
Okay.
most important to me, because I was doing that, and I was decent at it, had a project management engineering background, but in order for us
Mm,
to grow, it's the piece that I really needed to let go. And I think it's one of your main first 2 or 3 hires, period, because you can
mm,
bake their cost into the deal and not treat it as true overhead. So when you're out there estimating cost of construction, you can just add a project manager fee. It's an extra $2,000 for this house, an extra $3,000 for this house, whatever you decide. And it was a
Mm,
huge driver in us to continue being able to scale when we hired that first hire.
gotcha. So I'm curious, we're actually in the process of looking of hiring a project manager over the next few months. What were you looking for in that person when you hired them?
Yeah, so we run personality assessments on everybody that we hire. It's very different from like a maintenance tech to a project manager to a director of construction. So
Mm,
project manager, what I first you got to define what a project manager is and define their exact job description and day-to-day
mm,
task of what they want to be doing. But project manager to me is different from a general contractor because they're not managing one project; they're managing multiple at one time, and that
mhm,
that is the difference of why people can't scale right there. They're real good at managing one at a time, and that's great. Nothing's wrong with that. They can give everything they have to that one project, but once you start to spread that out over multiple projects, they start to lose accuracy and quality and timeliness. So, super important. So, got to be a great communicator because this is your number one line of defense with your subcontractors. And if you don't have a good relationship with them, you got pretty much nothing. Um, they have to be assertive, assertive in a very tactful way to be able to ask for what they need and to get things done. Um, they have to be organized and some attention to detail, but it doesn't have to be like through the roof like an accountant. Some
mm,
attention, and they have to have some sort of eye for design. So we call that aesthetics here. So it doesn't have to be through the roof like a true designer, but some sort of eye for design, organized and decent with numbers because they're going to be tracking budgets for you.
gotcha. And what kind of personality test were you using?
Yeah, we have a it's not proprietary, but it's a gentleman local here that's a combination of several different tests. So I'm sure you've heard of the DISC assessment,
Hmm.
right? So the DISC is like 25% of it, and then the other 25% is motivators, other 25% is skill set, and then the other 25% is called dimensional balance, how you see yourself versus how you see the world. And we kind of come,
Mm,
we know how to read those all together with the help from this gentleman that introduced it. His name's Art Snarzik, and I've gotten pretty good at reading them, but he's an excellent resource too. If we ever have a tricky hire, or like, would you hire this person? He helps us compare candidates. But there's so many out there. To me, it's just you got to get good at reading one of them. It's not the tool that matters; it's your understanding of the tool, and then
mm,
that's what matters most.
yeah. And what's your hiring process, I guess, now for hiring a project manager when you need to hire them?
Yeah. So pretty in depth. We've gotten pretty good at hiring. We've built our team from uh, just us two to about 50 people now. Um, Number one, it's just like recruiting. That's on the front end. So um,
Mm,
we we uh, we love to hire people within our network or that next layer out. So what we've done is, it's kind of taboo, but I went out to all my friends and family that are the most talented people I know who are just sick of the corporate world and pretty much recruited them to be on our team to help build this business. So that's
mm,
one. We utilize our social media presence to share the hiring, and then we also do paid ads like Indeed and just started getting LinkedIn a little bit too. Um, so they fill out an application, submit resume, and then we follow up right after that with a questionnaire. And the questionnaire really, I don't really care about the answers on it too much unless there's like a giant red flag, like they worship the devil or something like that. But the questionnaire is how serious are you in this? What's the timeliness of when we submit the questionnaire versus when you're getting it back? Um, and it's a
mm,
phone interview that goes well, it's a first in-person interview. If that goes well, we send you the disc or the personality assessment. We review and we can disqualify or qualify from that. And then we bring in for a second interview and go through, ask some pointed questions around some concerns on the personality assessment. And then we like to do one final informal check, like a coffee or a dinner or anything out of the office to try to get to know this person as good as
Mm,
possible, especially if they're uh, coming from out of our network. And
yeah.
at that point, we'll offer a verbal offer, and then we'll send application for the background check. And if that comes back clean, we'll do a signed offer. So it's pretty in depth, but we got it down pretty well.
Yeah. Are you only looking for people with construction experience? Because you mentioned people who are looking to get out of the corporate world.
Well, yeah, we hire for a lot of different roles. That's not the only role we hire for. With a project manager, yeah, we would need some construction experience. We've tried to hire a few like maintenance techs, actual doers, and like coach them up, and it was a challenge. So
Mm,
uh, for the project management role, they have to have some level of construction, but there's some other key skills that are probably more important than actually, being involved in construction your whole life.
gotcha. What are some of those skills that maybe you didn't mention before, the key ones?
Probably just the ones I mentioned before.
Okay, gotcha. Um, so you guys have I'm curious actually, what's the difference in your business between a director of construction and a project manager?
Yeah, so that's actually a newer hire that we did. The director of construction like comes up with the entire construction interface for us pretty much. Um, Project managers out in the field working with contractors, maybe ordering materials, maybe you know delivering materials, maybe doing a couple little handyman things here and there. Um, Director of construction is above him, making sure our metrics are being hit, timeline, budget, helps with design a little bit, and just really just that intermediary leader between them and who's running the company to kind of speak that business acumen.
Gotcha. What point, like I guess when you were scaling, did you feel it made sense to make that additional hire versus just a project manager?
Yeah, pretty recently. So, we kind of got stuck around those 40 houses, and with one project manager, you could probably do that. So we wanted to get to that 75 mark, and we kind of just looked at our team and trying to figure out where are our holes, and that's a role that we needed to kind of double our output.
Gotcha. And are they like working on your rental property, like maintenance as well, or is that treated as a totally separate entity?
That's a great question too, man. I think it's something that we talk about every day, literally. Um, so right now, our construction team for our flipping properties handles the front end of the rental repads.
Hmm.
But after
Hmm.
that point, it goes to the property management team, and our maintenance techs for occupied rentals are under the property management team.
Got it. And what made you guys decide to start your own property management company versus using an existing one?
It's another great question. We probably talk about it almost every day too. But from a true cost analysis, it probably would be cheaper to hire it out. We've
Hmm.
always looked at managing our own rental portfolio and building a property management company that just can support that. We recently kind of made the shift to look at the property management company as a separate entity and try to maximize the value of that company as well. So that includes getting some outside owners and more doors to manage. So that is part of it, and really just the control. Earlier on in our career, we had some bad instances where we hired it out and it would just, zero visibility, no transparency, and the stuff wasn't getting done. So that's why we
Hmm.
decided to build it out. So
Gotcha. Okay. What what were some of the challenges as you scaled the property management business?
yeah, that that's a great question. So the margins in the property management business are just not very big. If you're running at 10-12% margin, that's pretty good. Um,
Hmm.
so Yeah, I would say some of the biggest challenges came from us because we would throw assets into the property management company that we never really had the skill set or knowledge to be able to manage. So
Mm.
we're getting real clear on what we want to own, and a lot of big portion of that comes from what we're great at managing. And we're great at managing single family rentals and mid-sized apartments. That's what we're great at. But we bought two storage facilities and tried to figure it out, and it's a completely different animal. We
Mm.
tried short-term rentals and tried to figure it out, and it's a completely different animal. So we're going to
Yeah.
end up outsourcing those and just double down the things that we're great
Gotcha. Okay. What made you decide to like get into the buying storage?
at. I just thought it was a good investment. I was like, this looks easy. Put it on autopilot. We had a deal brought to, well, number one, we bought an apartment complex with attached storage. So that kind of got our foot into
Mm.
the door. And then we had a deal get brought to us by a broker friend of ours, and we're like, yeah, this looks like an awesome value add deal. It was like 66 units, but it came with like an extra 3 acres. So we built two buildings and did over the road storage on about 2 acres of it. And
Mhm.
we made an offer that, hey, if we get it at this, we're super happy. And they said no. And then that was early 2020, and then COVID hit, and they came back. We're like, hey, yeah, we'll take it. So we're like, yeah, well, let's figure this out.
Ah, I gotcha. Cool.
And we bought we bought a resort down in Branson, Missouri, and it was the same way. I'm like, this is a deal. We'll figure out the rest, and probably stresses the hell out of my team, but that's my job, right? Is to grow and drive revenue. So that's what I'm here for.
Do you still own the resort?
Yeah, yeah. We bought it last year actually. So we spent about a
Huh.
year and about $1.2 million on renovating it and making it like a nice resort. And really just started like marketing, getting the website up this past month or two. So working on driving
Yeah.
occupancy higher there.
What kind of resort is it?
It's so it used to be a little like boutique hotel, 18
Hmm.
units. Um, we took the hotel away from it and made actually the office into another unit, and it's just all 18 individual short-term rentals right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and then so the other side of your business is kind of obviously before it hits the flipping side or the rental portfolio is the wholesaling business. So
Yeah.
what changes have you made over the wholesaling business in call it the last 2 years? As I mean, I can't speak for where you are, but obviously in a lot of areas of the country things have changed significantly.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. A lot of changes. End of 22 through all of 23 was a huge challenge for us. So the majority of so we have a unique model where about 70% of our deals that we buy are through relationships. That could be
Mm.
other wholesalers, real estate agents, other contractors, mold remediators, whoever. That's a big part of our focus and intention in marketing is getting our name out there, branding, stuff like that. The other 30% comes from paid advertisement, like
Mhm.
everybody, direct mail, SEO, pay per click, and some TV and some radio. Um, but we bought 60 houses, I would say, in 2022 from wholesalers, and
Mm.
like 23, we bought like 20. So as the smaller wholesalers kind of dried up, we had to kind of refocus our efforts on some other things as well, and just volume
Mm.
in general. Right? We're like at 2/3 of volume of what we were pre-COVID. So really figuring out a way to maximize each deal more, whether it's taking it down and rehabbing it or taking it down and cleaning the listing to the MLS. That's been huge for us. So as volume kind of didn't grow to where we wanted to, maximizing
Mm.
each deal, and then also like our buy and hold investors kind of dried up a little bit. It's a lot of good flip investor buyers out there still, but as you guys know, it's hard to get a rental to cash flow these days. So those bread and butter rentals are what people used to eat up. They're not as um, appetizing anymore.
Sure. Gotcha. And then, like, what made you decide to build your wholesaling business in that way, that it was 70% relationship focused as opposed to most wholesaling businesses, which are probably 90% marketing focused?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it kind of just started happening, and then we're like, okay, I think we have something here. So it really just limits our overhead a lot. Um,
Mm,
to get the number of deals that we're doing now, we probably have to quadruple our marketing budget, so
mm,
we're able to, stay a little leaner that way, and then we're also able to um, pay our acquisition guys a little more and get the best talent out there as possible. So
mm.
we incentivize these networking leads and buys with a higher split on the back end,
Huh,
so that to work out well for us.
gotcha. And do you have your acquisition team members, like, do some of them focus just on direct to seller, or do they both do the relationships and the direct to seller?
Yeah, another great question. That's something we thought about is to separate them, but right
Mm,
now they do both. So we're looking for this like unicorn person that's an excellent closer on in the kitchen or living room with a seller and a person that likes to get out there and network and drum up business themselves. So we've
hmm,
kept it both now, but it does make it challenging to find those avatars.
yeah. Are you pulling that avatar from a certain like other type of business or other type of sales role that you're looking to hire those people from?
Yeah, so we just did a round of hiring right now. So a couple of our guys came from the liquor business, selling
Hmm,
booze, and then we're hiring three more right now, and two of them came from the car sales world.
hmm, gotcha. And then how does that kind of work? Do you bring them in and then you kind of tell them the types of people that they should be building relationships? Like I've never heard someone run that model, so I'm curious how you do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Got some music there. Are you me?
I think that's you.
Are you?
You're good.
I don't think
Yeah.
maybe. Um, anyway, um, yeah, that's a great question. So we kind of figure out their strengths. So there's so many different niches you
Mm,
can go at, and we kind of do a shotgun approach first. Whether it's drive for dollars, cold calling, probate attorneys, senior living communities, other wholesalers, real estate agents. Just kind of shotgun approach first and figure out what works real well for that person. We have a
mm,
director of sales uh, who is really big on relationship building and set specific metrics channel that they should be building in, and focus on those indicators. How many connections have we made? How many coffees have we had? How many handwritten letters? And we focus on those versus how many houses, so we can create some small wins, and we know that it eventually lead to the results that we want.
yeah. I'm curious, what are your kind of KPIs in that type of setup? Like in terms of like how many like new connections they're supposed to make every week, or how many letters or handwritten letters you're supposed to send?
Man, that's a great question. I could probably pull it up, but it's not a good one for me. Um,
No, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have, I don't know the exact ones, but what I do know is we have, with guidance, our acquisition managers set those benchmarks for themselves, and we hold them accountable for what they set.
Yeah. Okay. And then how big is your acquisitions team at this point?
Seven gentlemen, all guys right now. I'd love to find a rock star female. We just haven't found it yet because I think they would crush it. But seven gentlemen with a kind of an asset manager to help them like run comps, run construction budget, and then
Mm,
a direct sales that holds them accountable to those metrics.
gotcha. So they're each expected to bring in about like 3 deals a month. Is that kind of the?
That's almost exactly right. That's like our status quo. Like if you don't bring in 9 deals a quarter, then
Mm,
you're on a performance improvement plan.
yeah. And are you target like again, I don't know the St. Louis market, but is there a certain spread that you guys are targeting on each deal that they bring in?
We have a buying criteria. It's pretty basic, really. It's ARV times 0.75 minus repairs. We go with a conservative ARV and a conservative budget on the rehab, and then when we sell off of a possible but more aggressive ARV and a
Sure.
possible more aggressive rehab at 80%. So we kind of build in a spread with the discount factor, the comps, and the rehab budget. Um,
Mm,
Once we get to a certain price point, usually let's say $400,000, and we're looking at it as a possible rehab on the front end, like, oh, this would be a great rehab. This lead just hit the funnel. Then we'll run a little different analysis where we're looking to make at least 10% on our money return. So if we're all in on a house, 400 grand with purchase and rehab, we're going to want to make at least $40,000 on that house.
gotcha. That's what your money's all in at, not 10% of the ARV. It's 10. Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. And then like what were some of the challenges like as you kind of scaled up that acquisition side of the business?
Yeah. Just the right people.
Mm,
We have we train a lot. People learn a lot. So them thinking they can go do it on their own after a year or two, and just kind of protecting that a little bit and figuring out ways to do that. Um, with our networking side, just there's a lot of lines to get crossed as far as like who's which connector and all that stuff. So
mm.
it's kind of setting some clear guidelines there, so we're not fighting over the same deal. Um, yeah, I think those are our main ones. I would say, yeah.
What are some of those guidelines that you have to make sure that, yeah, you don't have three different reps saying that, well, that's my relationship when a deal comes in?
Yeah, we used to have like really strict, like this person is this person's connector, right? And don't touch it. We kind of went away from that, and except for like a few really key people. um,
Sure.
for the most part, whoever has the best relationship, that's who they're going to send the deal to. And if they don't send the deal to you, then you're not doing something right on building that relationship.
Mm. So it's not like no one's assigned, it's just like kind of who gets the call on the deal first,
Exactly.
almost.
Yeah, those
Gotcha.
leads, the majority directly to the acquisition manager, and they put it in the system. Whereas our marketing leads call like our main number or main website, and those get round robin throughout our current pool of acquisition managers.
Got it. So they add that late in the system, meaning like that property, and if they're the first person to add in the system, that means
Yeah,
that
it's theirs.
it's theirs. Hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Did you always run the business that way from the beginning, with the relationships being about 70%?
Yeah, our goal initially was 50-50. And
Hmm.
there was times in the beginning where marketing would way outperform the relationship side. And
Hmm.
we just and we didn't we knew we didn't have enough leads to keep these guys busy 100% of the time. So we're like, hey, what are you doing with the other half of your time?
Hmm.
So we shifted and put a huge focus in on networking, and then that flip flopped, and then we were behind on marketing, and then trying to get that to catch up. And as we were trying to get that to catch up, we were just doing a whole bunch of analysis for the business on what's the most healthy and profitable. And it's not 50-50. It's that 70-30, 65-35 split, and that's where
Hmm.
we want to stay.
Gotcha. Okay. What other challenges have you faced as you've scaled uh, the purchasing side or the wholesaling side of the business?
Yeah, I would say we've always been really strong from an operational standpoint. So we
Hmm.
scaled the ops side, and by the ops side, I mean, marketing, dispo, contract to close, lead management, um, the project management team leadership, we've scaled that a little quicker than the acquisition. So we've been ready
Mm,
for this big chunk of volume for a long time. Um, so it just the deals out there have been very challenging to get. So our
mm,
current acquisition team, though great guys, we just have to grow that and overstaff that to be able to fill the operational pipeline that we have. So we never really scaled back down after interest rates changed. So we're ready, and to when we get a little tailwinds, we're going to be ready to
mm,
go.
yeah. What are some of those operational pieces that you put in place ahead of time that allowed you to scale?
Yeah, I would say number one is just the leader for the business. I ran the business for a long time, and I'm good, but I'm not great at it, especially with fractured focus on other businesses that we have. So we hired a super high level COO. Is my brother-in-law actually? He was the vice president of sales and marketing at like a $500 million company, and I've been dripping on him for several years. And he finally came aboard, took over, started in Dispo, which is a great role to get to know all aspects of business:
Mm,
acquisition, Dispo, contract to close, rehab in a sense. So he started there, learned the business, and then first part of 2023, he took that over and kind of
mm,
just really transformed us into an actual business, and
mm,
it's just like a whole group of wholesalers. You know what I mean? So all the financial metrics and leadership and accountability that he's put in place over the past 18 months, let's say, has really allowed us to dial in operationally and allow me to elevate into my genius zone as well.
gotcha. Okay. And you said into your genius zone. So what is your genius zone?
Yeah, man. What do I love? I love building a team. So,
Mm,
if people have to tell me to not hire because I just like look at all the opportunities, like, hey, but if we hire this, this, and this, imagine what we could do. So that's my mindset. But then
mm,
I have the finance team and operations team to like keep me in check. Like, hey, what about the budget? Have you heard of that? So just building the team and keeping our culture as strong as possible. Um,
mm,
yeah, and that's a huge focus of mine. It's going to be a huge driver in our success. It has been. So as we grow, keeping that culture strong, make sure we're bringing the right people on board, and then just the big picture finances as well.
mm.
Making sure we're hitting our net profit numbers, making sure our balance sheet is strong, all that type of stuff.
What are you doing now that you're up to 50 people to keep that culture strong?
Mm. It 80% of it is hiring the right person.
Mm,
If we bring a bad apple in here, then we have to cut it quick. Um,
mm,
I think we could be a little quicker to let go of people that we know we're not going to work. Where my general personality is to coach up. I don't want to fail. I can get this person to where we need to be from a cultural or performance standpoint. Sometimes that's the case, but most of the time it's not. So just understanding
mm,
quicker the right time to part with people, and just we do all team weekly meetings where we all get together uh, and just be around each other, with this, it's like a virtual world, right? And a big part of our culture is being here at least once a week together.
mm,
We do team outings where we have like a cornhole tournament or, office Olympics or a bowling event, something like that, quarterly updates to the team. So culture to me is the right people on the team, number one. And then
mm.
also a big part is like the vision, like getting setting a vision for a team and communicating that so people are excited to come into work and do their job every day and in a very uplifting and positive environment.
Yeah. Okay. What is your vision for the next 3 years for your company?
3 years, that's a little tight for me. um,
Or longer or shorter, you pick.
so we gotta so we want a billion in assets under management.
Hmm.
Um, we want to be a top five um, education business in the country. And
Hmm.
then another one of our big goals is to bring an NBA team to St. Louis.
Bring an NVA team, you said?
Yeah, we put that
Are you
out
gonna
there
own it?
quickly.
You
Yeah,
gonna own
or at
that?
least
Okay,
part of the ownership team.
sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And let's talk about the disposition side. How has that changed for you guys over the last 2 years?
yeah. Great question. I mentioned a little bit, but fix and flip investors or buyers, let's call them, are still out there. So a quality
Hmm.
fix and flip product, people are making good money on. And you know, our model has always been we don't sell to hedge funds. We very rarely sell to out of state people because we do care about our community. We want to sell to people who are going to jump in on that rehab quick, not let it sit vacant for 3, 4, 5 months, and then go make money themselves. If they're not making money, we're not they're not coming back to buy from us. So
Mm.
um, we would rather, take a little bit less of a profit and sell to someone that we know is going to take care of that house, um, and and knows going to close as well, and that's going
Mm.
to come back and do it again instead of going out and finding all these one-off, two-off buyers that are making mistakes when they buy, and then we're setting them up for failure, and then they're never going to come back to us again.
Yeah. And how have you gone about building those relationships with those right buyers that you want to continue to do business
Yeah, it is a numbers game. So the volume or the quantity of our buyer list is important to us. It's
with?
very powerful. We've got about 4,000 people on that. Um, like just an example, like this one house, we bought a little tight. We went to our best buyer, not a huge wholesale fee, but it was like 15 grand. We're like, hey man, we need you to buy this house for this price. If you do it, we'll take you out for a steak dinner. So he did, and we did, and hopefully he goes and makes some money off it. But we're just trying to be that, not the wholesaler that's trying to get the best price for everything, but someone that has the good deals that everybody comes to, and to just be that authoritative influencer in this space, and provide. We're working on providing a little more marketing and information about the property as well. Putting a cash flow calculator on our website, just so kind of the one-stop shop is what we want to be. And our disposition manager is a great relationship manager too, and he's
Mm.
good at yeah, he's right people, right? So he's the guy to build those relationships.
Yeah. So what does that disposition process look like for you guys? Let's say you're gonna wholesale it, not a retail disposition.
Yeah, yeah. So we got it under contract. Obviously, maybe within a couple of days, we'll do a deep dive, figure out, are we going to rehab it? Are we going to wholesale it?
Mm.
Majority of the time, if we're going to rehab it, we don't shop it. Um, every once in a while, we will, like, hey, if we can get this, let's do it, but not
Hmm.
usually. Um, So, um, got all the information loaded in our CRM, and the buyer or our disposition manager will touch base with the acquisition managers to make sure they're not missing anything. They'll load everything up, and it'll blast it out in an email and a text message
Mm.
with a little marketing description on each house. Um, So when we're trying to wholesale, obviously we gotta set up some type of showing at the house. So we have to,
Mm.
with the communication with the acquisition manager, who already has that relationship with the seller and our dispo manager. So that's like a little triangle that they gotta stay real tight. Hey, showing Tuesday at 2 o'clock, blast it out. He goes to the showing, the disposition manager, sometimes the acquisition manager too. They show the house and hopefully sell it. I guess what's different about us is if we don't sell it, the majority of the time we're still going to close on it and
Hmm.
figure out another exit strategy with that house.
Gotcha. And are you guys finding that you're kind of always able to or not always, but most of the time able to sell from that first showing that you're doing?
Yeah, I would say. Oh, geez. I wonder what the percentage is. I would say definitely over half of the time, yes. There's a lot of times, sometimes it's vacant, but I would say on like 30 to 40% of ours, we have to do a price drop and reblast. And
Gotcha.
we do that up until about 8 days of closing, give or take. We got to get a contract usually about 7 days before closing. Sometimes we'll go back to the seller and try to push it back a little bit if it makes sense. But yeah, we're doing everything we can to price drop blast again, price drop blast again. At least get 2 or 3 blasts out there before we have to close on it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, yeah, what other stuff? And I keep asking about changes in the last 2 years because I'm just curious because, obviously in Jacksonville there's been a ton of changes. What other things have you guys changed in any part of your business that we haven't talked about already?
Ooh, it's a good question. I think like big focus of ours is the rentals right now, and
Mm,
we're balancing cash flow and equity. That's what we're doing. So we have a tremendous amount of equity, but our cash flow is honestly not great. So we're trying to figure out a way to maximize that cash flow in this high interest rate environment, which is challenging. So
mm,
we've gone to more national lenders with DSC, DSCR products, and even interest only has really excited me lately
hmm
because our equity's there. We'll still get some upside in appreciation. Maybe we don't get the debt pay down, but that shouldn't be our focus right now. That'll grow, not at the exponential way it grows with debt pay down, but it'll still grow, but focus on cash flow with some interest only type loans right now. So that's one of the
mm.
things that keep in mind.
Gotcha. So just is it buying just the properties like really steep discount, and then are you not leveraging up all the way that you normally would with 75% or?
That's a great option. If you're going to local banks right now in the back end of a Burr value add refinance at 75%, 80%, it's not going to cash flow because you're going to get 8.5 uh, 25-year AM, right? But if you're able to build up a portfolio of these single family houses, you can go get interest only 30-year if it's not interest only at 6.75, and that's
Mm,
that's 6.75 is probably like 6.75 interest only is probably like a 4% 25-year AM from a cash flow perspective. Um,
mm.
so if we can figure out a way to buy a whole bunch real quick, bundle them before we have to go to the local banks and go straight to those national lenders, that's what we're trying to figure out right now, the best way to do that.
Gotcha. And you're finding you're getting a lot better pricing from the national lenders with the packages, even versus doing them one off with the national lenders.
Yeah, yeah. And one off with the Nationals, you can get similar, but it's a lot of work for one deal. There's red tape and it, with a local bank, you just send an email and it's pretty much done. But they don't have
Mm,
the terms for stuff. So if I'm going national type lender with the better terms, I need to make sure it's worth it. And a one off to me is not worth it.
yeah. How did you go about building those relationships with those local banks?
Yeah, yeah. Local banks are a huge part of what we built here. We have $30 million worth of debt, give or take, and I would say 20 of it at least is with local banks.
Mm,
So yeah, we we did it the maybe not the wrong way, but we struggled at first. That very first house I talked about, which we planned to flip, middle of construction, like, oh, let's keep it as a rental, let's refinance. So I was calling like Bank of America, U.S. Bank, Regions, I think might have been available at the time, and I was like, hey, you know the Burr strategy, and they would look at me like they had no idea what they were talking about. So number one, you have to find the bank that likes to lend on these type of products, and you do that by just getting plugged into your local real estate community and figuring out who everybody is using. And that's what we did. We got a few referrals after talking to like 20 banks that didn't know what the heck we're talking about, and then we kind of just met with them in person and developed a business plan and kind of just pitched our business plan. And we did that to, you know, 5 or 6 banks, and we finally got one person to say yes on the first deal, 6%, 20-year AM, and hey, we didn't care. It was someone said yes, and after that first person said yes, we were able to go with them a little bit, but then we had the experience and all, just like your first deal. After that first one's, everyone else after that is easier.
Yeah, for sure. Gotcha. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and there's always two questions I always ask at the end. The first is, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation that you have ever experienced in a real estate deal?
There's so many, Mike. There's so many. I don't even know where to start here. I can do the deal that just happened, or I could. Let's talk about a seller situation. Um,
Mm,
so this lady was had some sort of learning disability, and she was an adult woman whose both parents passed away in a span of about a month, leaving this house to her. And she had no idea how to navigate it. Didn't even know like personal finances hardly. So she had a car and a driver's license and a dog, and just drove to Nashville. Um, so she ended up calling us, and we kind of walked her through the situation. Sell this, you get this. Did all the research on her title, on her mortgage, on her parents' mortgage, all that stuff. Um, but we ended up finding her a place to live for a little bit in Nashville, her and her dog. And then for a few weeks, we signed a contract. And then when she came back to close, we found another place for her and her dog to live for several weeks. And then we lined her up with the appropriate resources that we think would help her get through this situation. We also have a nonprofit here in our office focused on mental health and wellness. So we have a lot of good resources there. So we helped line her up with everything and just helped her through the process. But that one pulled on the heartstrings for me. And that's just the kind of stuff we do to go above and beyond for our sellers.
yeah, gotcha. Um, then the other question I always ask is, if you could go back in time, give yourself one piece of advice when you were looking for your first real estate deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
This is such a tough question because we teach real estate, right? So we get to do this pretty often. Um, but the number one thing to learn is to go through what you went through. And I don't
Mm,
know what I would have learned what I know now without having to go through all the shit that I went through. I don't know if we can cuss or not, so sorry about that.
that's fine.
But yeah, I guess to me is, you know, it all starts at home, right? Business is just a game. It's just fun. If your key relationships at home with your spouse and your children are not right, then none of this at work matters. So
Mm,
that's number one to me. And I wouldn't say I lost track of that at some point, but it definitely wasn't as big a focus as it is now to me. If that's right, I can just come into the office and do what I love. But if that's
mm,
off, then some challenges. So really carving out time for connection with your closest personal relationships around the house.
gotcha. Great piece of advice. So, Lucas, if people want to connect with you after the show, maybe they've got some houses they're selling in your market, or they're interested in learning more about your coaching program, how can they go about getting in touch with you?
Yeah, Lucas Faster Freedom. Faster Freedom is our education company. Um, so reach out to me there on Instagram or TikTok. I've just started those. Don't really know what I'm doing, but hopefully I'm posting some valuable content for you guys. LinkedIn, Lucas Walls. Reach out to me there. Just kind of got that back up and running. But yeah, those are three great places to reach out.
Cool. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, it was fun, Mike. Thanks for having me.